Greetings everyone. This is Dr. K. Narayan. If you could hear my audio okay, could you type something in the chat? And in the meantime, if you can hear me, please also let us know where you are joining from. We'll be starting in about 2 minutes. Okay, welcome everyone. We'll be starting in about a minute or so. Greetings everyone, let's get started. My name is Dr. K. Narayan. By background, I'm a physicist and I'm also the founder of this non-profit organization called Children of Infinity. The mission of our organization is to lead humanity from suffering to joy. And today we have this workshop because aligning with your life purpose is critical to living an authentic and spiritual life. So let's get started. Just a few instructions for making the most of this video. So this is a YouTube telecast, which means the link that you are viewing right now will become a webinar recording, and you can come back to this recording later and you can watch it again. So just pay your full attention to the material. Don't worry too much about taking notes. This material is available to you later. Second, please refrain from posting unnecessary comments in the chat. It becomes distracting. There is a Q&A after the workshop. So at that point, you can ask me any questions and I'll be happy to answer them. And lastly, all the resources that are being discussed here are available on our website, which is childrenofinfinity.org/recommendations. So that has a list of books that we recommend for everybody. Let's get started. The starting point that I always want to begin with is beliefs. Because the human experience is inseparable from our own deepest beliefs, and which are, number one, who are we? And depending on the answer to that question, there's a next set of beliefs that we all have, and that is, how should we live on this planet? Right? Now, examining these questions requires us to look into the nature of reality. When we look at reality, it may appear to be made up of distinct and separate things and beings. However, if we go deeper into both modern science as well as mysticism, we realize that all of this diversity and separateness actually arises from a single source. So, in a way, this separation is an illusion. What we see as matter is merely a fluctuation in an underlying field. There are different names for this field. Some call it the unified field, or also the Akashic field. Now, what is true of matter is also true of consciousness. When we perceive others, in fact, there are no others. We are all like waves upon the ocean. This perspective of oneness is not merely a philosophical speculation. If you study the experiences of mystics throughout the ages, both from the East and the West, it presents a compelling model of reality. This perspective is also called non-duality, and there's a free video on our website with more details. To give you a very simple example, if you go to a movie and you watch a movie, what exactly is real when you watch the movie? You may see images on the screen that give you appearance of a live performance, right? But if you think about it, in all of that show, only the electricity is real. It's the electricity that becomes light, which creates images. It's electricity that becomes sound, which gives you the audio, and so on. So in the similar sense, all of this diverse existence arises from a single source energy that we call the source. Now this source becomes all that is, which includes all the matter, the non-matter, the living beings, entities, and consciousnesses. The practical upshot of this perspective is that there's a deep understanding that we can develop over a period of time, and that is that this entire universe is our extension. There is just one being in the entire universe, and that's us. As a result, what we do to others, we do to ourselves. And this is the basic of ethics, right? But there's a flip side, and that is what we do to ourselves, we do to entire creation. And herein lies the key to changing the universe, and that is we change ourselves. And from this perspective, the greatest gift that we can give to the creation is to live a joyous, inspired, and fulfilled life. Because when we live an inspired life, we inspire everybody around us. And that is how we change the consciousness of people around us. So with that background, let's talk about the specific topic for this workshop, which is life purpose. Now, there is something that we need to understand, and that is that our life purpose is integral to our physical journey, which is the journey of an incarnation, right? To go into detail, we are not the body nor the mind, but we are the pure consciousness that is aware of the body-mind. Just like you look at a chair and you say, that's a chair. When you look at your body and you say, that's my body, it's not you. It's yours, but it's not you. And that's also true of the mind. Now, your life purpose is very closely tied to the purpose for being on this planet. Because your life purpose, in fact, the primary way yourself, which is your true being, that is how it wanted to express the creativity of the source in this incarnation. So every single incarnation comes with a built-in purpose. Now, as part of your free will, you can honor that purpose, or you can say, I do not want to travel that path. It's entirely up to you. However, when you came here, it came with you. And in each incarnation, you bring the gifts that are needed to express yourself. These might be artistic gifts, gifts of working with people, healing, or being able to raise the consciousness of those around you. Now, these gifts don't generally come fully developed, but they come as seeds that you have to grow and cultivate. Now, one key understanding here is that by being yourself fully, you honor yourself, which is honoring the source. Now, you might not feel comfortable with the idea of fully being yourself, because there might be strong cultural conditioning that says, in order to be spiritual, you need to be humble, and that means not projecting your selfhood out in the world. Some of you might be putting everybody else's needs before yours, and you might be thinking that's the way to be spiritual. But it is time to let go of that conditioning, because every one of us is a unique expression of the source energy, and the only way we can honor that energy is by honoring ourselves, which requires that we become the fullest expression of ourselves. To give you an example, let's take an example of an orchestra. Each instrument in the orchestra has to be itself for the orchestra to work. If the piano in the orchestra thinks, let me be humble and not stand out, let me sound just like a violin, the entire orchestra will lose its function and hence its purpose. When you are not fully expressing your individuality, you are cheating yourself, and hence you are cheating the source. And also let's remember that by aligning with your life purpose, you align with joy. And that expression of joy is unique to you. The joy you feel is actually an indication of harmony between your true being and the way you are expressing yourself. And by being in joy, you also make your highest contribution. Let's talk about the obstacles to aligning with life purpose. One of the big problems we have on this planet is that the vast majority of people are unhappy, and they are unhappy because they are not aligned with their life purpose. The root of this problem is the ignorance of our true nature. The mass consciousness does not understand that we are part of the source and that each incarnation has a purpose. And when we are not aware of our true identity, what do? We fail to perceive the power that lies within us, and then we start seeking that power from outside through validation from others. We may let external authority manage our life by following the way of the tribe. The way of the tribe is a list of simplistic rules such as get an education, get a good job, get married, start a family, and then one day you can retire and really enjoy life. Now, the great tragedy is that the way of the tribe is a myth. In the Western world, there are so many people, in fact millions of them, who have the right education and the right job and the right mate, and they are absolutely miserable because they have sacrificed who they truly are in order to fit in. The time has come to honor the light within and not let the tribe be the authority over our life. The second major problem is fear. When we listen to the voice of fear, we settle for security and comfort instead of reaching for fulfillment and making our highest contribution. If we look at studies that come out every year, there's a high percentage of people who are miserable in their jobs. They would most likely be much happier doing something else, and in all probability would also make more money. But instead, they just cling to what they know rather than face the unknown. What a tragedy. The third reason is distractions. Modern life is full of distractions. So instead of writing that great book or building a business or learning how to play a sport, we get stuck in watching TV and spending hours on Facebook. When our time and attention are drained by meaningless activities, no wonder we don't have energy to do anything worthwhile. Before going on to the exercises of identifying your life purpose, let me also clarify about two misconceptions. First major misconception is that your life purpose is a thing that you have to find. People think of it as a magical key that once they find it, it gives them their treasure. However, your life purpose is not a thing, it's a theme. How you use that theme is up to you. You are free to use your creativity to express that theme in any way that brings you joy. To take an example, if the theme is to be a healer, you can study medicine and become a traditional doctor. Or you can become a shaman. Or you can study psychology to become a therapist. The key is not to be attached to a particular way in which you can pursue your life purpose. Second, there's a major misconception that says that once you start following your life purpose, as a reward, all problems will go away. You'll be financially secure, healthy, loved, even admired. The root of this thinking is the arrival syndrome, which says that once we arrive at a certain place, everything will be great. This fairy tale ending where everybody lives happily ever after is a great marketing tool. And through repetition, it has become a part of our cultural conditioning. You see it in the movies where people find the romance or the success they want. You see it in the media where we are obsessed with celebrity. Unfortunately, this idea has also made its way into spirituality. But let's remember, the reason we came here, the reason we incarnate in this reality is for the purpose of growth. And there is no growth possible if we have arrived. Lack of problems is not a measure of spiritual growth. In fact, it is the opposite. When we have the opportunities to master more complex and higher lessons as we progress, we will be facing more difficulties. So, there is no easy way out. There is no magic that will start happening once you find a purpose and your problems will go away. In most likelihood, you will have to deal with lessons till the very moment you are here on the planet. But welcome to the journey of growth. Now let's talk about how to clarify your life purpose. And there are 3 keys I want to highlight here. So our life purpose lies at the intersection of 3 opportunities. The first one is joy. When we are aligned with joy, we are aligned with our true essence. So we need to structure our life in order to make joy a priority and to live with joy. The second is our gifts. These are unique ways in which we radiate the light of the source that's within us, and in the process, we serve the creation. When we incarnated, we brought these gifts as seeds with us, but we do have to do the work of cultivating these gifts. If we look at life's progression, often we can see 2 distinct phases. The first phase is the phase of learning. This is where we experience life and learn about ourselves, others, and about our unique strengths. The second phase, which typically starts in the middle age, is the phase of sharing, where we take our life experience and use it to serve others. We'll be doing an exercise to take stock of your gifts later. The third key is growth. Where do you see the greatest opportunity for your own growth? You can grow as a person, you can grow as part of a community, and you can also grow as part of the source. So, with this background, let's do the exercises. Please grab a notebook and a pen if you haven't already, because we'll be doing some writing. And here are the guidelines to get the most of this exercise. Number 1, write your answers on paper. Don't keep it in your head. Your head is not a good place to store information. It's great for analytical thinking, but to actually create something, it's best to write on paper. Second, be honest and be yourself. You don't have to pretend to be somebody else. The whole point of aligning with your life purpose is to be yourself. Okay? So write the answers that come from your deepest self, not from social conditioning. Do not write down things that you think are supposed to be good. Only write things that are authentic to you. And third, write the first thought that comes to your mind. Don't censor yourself. Don't start analyzing, because once you start analyzing, you will lose authenticity. Okay? So here is what we are going to do. I'll post a question and then you have to write the answer. We have exactly 2 minutes for each answer. Okay? As I said before, write the first thought that comes to your mind. Keep writing for 2 minutes. Don't think too much about it. So let's start. First question. What would you do purely as an expression of joy if there were no external rewards? So, what would you do that doesn't bring you any more money or approval or recognition, anything external at all, but something that you want to do completely because that brings you joy? Let's take 2 minutes and write it down. We have 30 seconds more. Okay, let's go to the next question. What gifts have you accumulated through your own life experience? These might include challenges that you have overcome, lessons you have learned, or skills that you have acquired. Now, do not judge the worth of your gifts based on external measures, such as how big the audience for your gifts might be. Even if there is one person who can benefit from your experience, sharing your gift with that one person is worth it. Okay? So, for the next 2 minutes, write down what are your gifts. We have 30 seconds more. Next, what experiences would be great opportunities to grow? So, what do you think is a worthwhile challenge? Of course, it will help if there is a connection between your own life experience and the challenge. So, don't pick up something that's so big and scary that you freeze and you don't do anything at all. But at the same time, don't pick something that's so easy, you know you could do it very easily. So, the idea is to find something that stretches you without breaking you, right? So, find what would be a good opportunity for growth that will stretch you. Let's start. Thirty seconds more. All right, so we are done with the third question. Now, here is how you combine those three answers into a single idea. Okay, so take those three different keys and form a single idea or a theme, and that will be your life purpose. So, hopefully, it should take you only 30 seconds to write that life purpose down. Now, let's do something. Hopefully, you have it written down. If you want to share with the audience what your life purpose is, it will be great to see what everybody's life purpose is, and it will encourage others who are on the same journey. So, if you feel comfortable, just write your life purpose down in the chat. And we have 1 more minute to finish the exercise. Am I audible? So write these three ideas. They were about, first one was about your joy, second about your gifts, the third about your growth. Combine these three ideas to create a single idea, and that is your life purpose. Hopefully it should be a single sentence. So if you want to share, just put that sentence down in this chat. Great, I'm seeing some answers here about healing the world, helping loved ones, and expressing and sharing beauty. non-profit volunteering, be part of charity, creative healing. We have a few seconds more. Thanks everybody who shared. So let's dive into starting on the journey, right? There is no point in just identifying your life purpose if you're not going to do anything about it, right? So, first thing is, what steps do you need to take to get started? So, for example, if you want to learn to play a musical instrument, you would need to find a teacher, you would need to get some books, and you would actually either need to buy a keyboard or a piano. So similarly, what are the steps that you need to take to get started on your life purpose? Again, take 2 minutes and write down all the things that you need to do. Okay, next question. What do you need to learn and master to keep making progress towards your life purpose? So once you have taken the initial step, what do you need to learn and master to keep going? So for example, if you want to be a writer, you would need to improve your writing skills through daily reading and writing, right? If you want to volunteer, you will need to improve your skills of volunteering and so on. So what are the skills that you need to learn and master to achieve your life purpose? Let's take 2 minutes. Okay, next. What is the smallest daily commitment for living your life purpose? Those of you who were there for the last workshop, we talked about the 30-day growth challenge where you are planning to devote at least 30 minutes every day on one thing that's really important to you. It might be reading or meditating or practicing your art and so on. So, what is the smallest daily commitment that you need to make to live your life purpose? This should take only a minute. Okay, let's move on. What do you need to consciously eliminate to make space for your daily commitments? As we talked last time, ultimately you have a limited and fixed amount of time, right? So to add anything more to your day, you need to take something out. This might be social media, browsing, gossip, news, TV, or any other passive entertainment activity that's not adding any value to your life. But unless you specifically write down the things that you need to eliminate, they most likely won't just go away. Right? So let's take a minute to write down the things that you want to eliminate from your life. Next, what support system will help you? Understand that spiritual growth is not about being a lone warrior. If you are a lone warrior, you are most likely going to be very alone and miserable because it's difficult work. It's always good to have a support system around you. These are typically like-minded individuals who are working to achieve the same goal. The group can help you in accountability as well as providing knowledge and guidance. So think about what support system will help you. And then in the next slide, I'll also talk about the support system that we have created through Children of Infinity that can be of help. Okay, so this is where we are offering a community that we are building. I think Catherine in the chat mentioned about spiritual fellowship. And that's exactly what we are trying to build. So this is a community of spiritual and growth-oriented individuals. Now, let's make sure we understand the emphasis on both of them. There are lots of people who identify as being spiritual, but if you look at their life, it's a life of inactivity. Because somehow spirituality does not translate to real action in their life. They are happy reading books and discussing and so on, but they don't take as much action as they should. So I'm trying to create a community for people who really want to take action and in the process transform themselves and hopefully inspire others to take on the journey of consciousness. And we have been, this organization, which is Children of Infinity, has been doing these lectures for a while, but now we have gathered sufficient momentum that there are people like you who want to connect with others and see how we can actually think as one mind, which can help every single person, right? So this is where we have created a professional network on a platform called Mighty Network, and that's called childrenofinfinity.mn.co, and I'm going to post the link here. The network is free for users, so you can join for free, even though it's a professional network. So we have actually invested in this network to make sure that you can take the maximum advantage of being part of a community. Let me put a link here if you want to join. So if you go here, you will see the community. As soon as you join, there is an article there which talks about how to accelerate your spiritual progress. And once again, my vision is to have people who are like-minded, who are willing to invest in growth, work together so that together we can all achieve more. So this is pretty much the end of the workshop. Let me briefly talk about the resources that you can take advantage of on your own journey. First, there are videos that are on the website which go on the foundational material on spirituality, specifically on non-duality, and how to align that wisdom in your daily life, how to live with joy, how to identify your life purpose, how to understand scientific spirituality. All of that is available on the website, which is childrenofinfinity.org/courses. Second, we have a recommended books program. These books have been written by experts in their fields. Many of them have spent decades doing research, and the result of their research is available for us in a single book. This is, I can tell you, this is a transformative list of books. People who have been with us, who have joined a program called Year of Conscious Living, they can vouch for how important and how transformative these books are. And this list is available for free. You can check it out at childrenofinfinity.org/recommendations. Next, we have quite a few events coming in over the next 2 months. So starting on 30th Jan, this is where we will talk about our spiritual community. What is the vision? What creates this community? What are the beliefs and practices that hold it together? And then what are the opportunities to progress within the community? How do you become a member? What do you do to volunteer? How can you become a leader? And so on. Next one is about honoring your body as a temple of the divine. This is about health, specifically holistic health, that looks into nutrition, movement, and expressing joy. Next is understanding reincarnation. This is where we'll talk about the research that has been done over the past 5 decades on past life regression, out-of-body experiences, channeling, and multiple disciplines which point to this very strong picture of reincarnation. Most people are familiar somewhat with the notion of reincarnation, but they do not have the deeper knowledge that they probably should have. Next is about living with joy. As I said today, the greatest contribution you can make to the creation is to live a life aligned with joy. And we will talk about how to do that in this workshop. And then on 13th March, there is an advanced workshop that's called graduating from the earth school. We come in this reality to learn. So the question is, what are we here to learn? And at what point is the learning complete so that we can go to the next level? This is heavily influenced by very advanced spiritual material called the raw material. And those of you who have been on the spiritual journey for a while will find this workshop quite enlightening. So there are a couple of more things. We are a volunteer organization. We are a non-profit, so all of our events, all of the workshops, everything is free. Of course, it does take a lot of effort to create the value that we want to create. And our mission is to take humanity from suffering to joy. We want to create a planet where people are driven by love when they really care about each other and they are in tune with their own purpose. So here is how you can help with this effort. Number one, you can volunteer your skills for expanding this work. So this is, there is a form that you can sign up. That's cut.ly/LWL, which stands for Leading with Light. Let me also post the link here. Sorry if there is some mess up on the date. If you go to the main event page, you should be able to see the events. And then next, if you can donate money and get a tax deduction. So we are a non-profit organization where if you donate to the organization, the donation is a tax write-off. And let me give you a very brief tour of the website. So this is the website, childrenofinfinity.org. If you go here, you can go to free courses. The first course that we recommend is this. This is on basics of non-duality. It talks about worldviews, what's the difference between religion, materialism, and scientific spirituality, what is the perspective of non-duality, and then how to transcend suffering. This is the web page for recommendations. On the left, this is a list for a year of conscious living, which is a guided book club plus accountability group. And each one of them is a great book that can fundamentally change your perspective. We also have books about all different topics related to health and well-being, science, past life regression, and so on. Lastly, if you want to donate, you can click on donate and you can donate through PayPal. So with that, we are done with the workshop. Let me just post the two links once again. The first one is for joining the community. The second one is for signing up to be a volunteer. So this is for being part of the community. And this is for volunteering opportunities. So with that, let's take questions. So when you ask a question, preface your question with the word question so that I know you're asking a question. Sometimes people also put comments there and it can become confusing. So any questions you have about the material that was covered today, let's start with those. And then in about 15 or 20 minutes, we can go to any general questions that you have. Kimberly, if you are interested in being a volunteer, click on the second link, which is cut.ly/LWL. And you can sign up. You can tell us about your skills. We just want to make sure that your skills match with organization's needs. So, Joyce, all you have to do is on the form, sign up and let us know what your skills are. And then, based on what we have, somebody will get in touch with you and we can get the process started. Question from Devashish. What would be some tested avenue of finding intersection between spirituality and karma? I'm not sure if this is mostly for your own knowledge or practices that you want to live with. If you can basically specify the question, I'll be able to answer it. Question from Deborah, where would you start? Start with what? Is it about the life purpose or something else? Question from Teresa, how can I share this in a person group? I want to find people who are living on Long Island. So here is the vision that I have. Right now we are people who are just scattered all over the globe. As we grow, we should be able to find local people, and that's where we can start local chapters. But we are, I would say, probably 6 months away from that destination. So as of now, let's work with people virtually probably. But as we grow, we will find local people that we can work with. Question from Larry. When I combine the 3 elements, I see my growth in multiple dimensions. There is nothing wrong with having more than a single sentence purpose. However, it's best to start with the top one that you think is the most important and take it to the best of your ability. Question from Jane. How will the rise of AI and the metaverse impact our life purpose and spiritual journey? What can we do to stay human and align with our greater purpose? Understand that technology is something that we have created without being very conscious about it. So the perfect example is social media. It could be a great tool, except the consciousness that is using it is not using it in a very good manner, and that's why we have a mess that has been created. So don't worry, I would say don't worry too much about technology and the rise of AI and all these things. What you should worry about is think about how you can live a more inspired life. That should be the only question that you worry about. And if you give your all to find the answer to that question, you would do what you came here to do. Question from Alex. I have no real skills. That's not true. If you have a job, you have some skill, right? Somebody's paying you. It might take you a while to look at your skills and see what is of value in terms of helping others or expressing your creativity. But I can assure you there is something we all have. Question from Energy Gal. When I wrote down the steps, it was a pretty long list. Do you recommend keeping it shorter? So let's go in sequence. What that means is start with the first step. The list might be 100 steps long, but the key is to not worry about the 50th step. The key is to go in sequence and go as far as you can and then worry about the next step. Question from Rui. Can you speak on overcoming fear? I think that's a great question and it deserves its own workshop. In fact, if you go to this channel, on the YouTube channel, there's a video there that's called Overcoming Fear that can go more into it. But very briefly, if you look at fear, it has a structure. That is, if you start examining what are you afraid of and why are you so afraid, you'll find that there is a belief system which creates fear. And that belief system is believing in your own destructibility, where you think that things can affect you and hurt you and kill you. However, if you develop the true spiritual understanding, you will know yourself as a timeless and eternal being, and there is really nothing to be afraid of. Question from Teresa, how can I join as a volunteer? Teresa, I posted a link above, which is on cut.ly/LWL, which stands for Leading with Light. Just sign up there, and then volunteer will reach out to you to match your skills with the organization's needs. Question from Deborah, should I start with classes? So yes, as soon as you sign up to be a volunteer, you'll get a link which has the basic course that we recommend for everybody who wants to work with our organization. Question from Mahi Diya, how do I become a member? I will talk about community and membership in the next workshop, which is next week. So we will talk about what is the community all about, what are the steps to progress, and what are the practices that you need to have as part of being a member. Because ultimately, it's a growth-based community. So there is a commitment to daily growth that you need to make to be part of this organization. And I'll talk about all of those things next week. Question from Poonam. You asked to do writing. The questions you asked to do writing were very helpful. Can you quickly repeat the questions? The 3 questions, actually somebody already wrote. So the 3 questions is, what brings you your highest joy? Second, what are your gifts that you can share with the world? And third, what do you think is a great opportunity for growth? You combine those 3 together and you get your life purpose. Question from Robin. Would you be willing to share a bit about your personal journey of aligning with your purpose? That's a great question. So I will not go too much into detail, but I have been on this journey for 20 years, believe it or not. And I always started out with an organization of one person, which is 20 years ago, I made a commitment to my own growth and my own spiritual progress. However, about 2 years ago, I reached a point where I thought of sharing what I have learned with other people and just trying to find a few people who would be happy to take this journey with me. And that's where Children of Infinity was born. Initially, it was just lectures and Q&A, but as we began to grow, I found a lot more people, not just a few people. And today I see it as a spiritual organization that can go worldwide because there is a deep need in our culture for true spirituality. People do not know what true spirituality is. Most of them either have exposure to religion, which has its own problems, or they believe in materialism, which is we just came out of nowhere. And both of these perspectives don't really help us. So what I'm trying to do here is to align people's beliefs with research, specifically the research that has been done over the past 50 years in consciousness. Things such as past life regression, channeling, out-of-body experiences, and so on. And to give them something that can give meaning to their life and also give them a purpose to live. So that's my journey. Question from Deborah. Please confirm you must become a volunteer before signing up for classes. If you don't really need to. So as soon as you join the Mighty Network link that I sent, there is a welcome message that comes to you, and in there's a link to sign up for a course. If you want to be a volunteer, that's an added bonus, but it's the same course whether or not you want to be a volunteer. Question from Always. If we are here to live joyfully, why do we need to suffer? We don't need to. Now, but there is a consensus reality, which is not necessarily true, but what happens is it's part of the grand illusion where everybody believes in something and hence you also start believing in it. And that is the belief in the need for suffering. Much of the suffering that we have created on this planet is unnecessary, and it's created because of our own ignorance. To give you an example from spiritual dimension, there's an analogy that's given, that is, if you see a rope on the road, but you mistake it for a snake, you will suffer and you'll be victim of your own ignorance. And that is exactly true in the present human condition. Through our own ignorance, we have created all the mess, and now we are suffering through it. So true growth is possible through joy. Now, we all have two teachers. There is a teacher of suffering, but there is also the teacher of joy. It's always better to learn from the teacher of joy, but that does require initiative. And if we are willing to take the initiative, if we are willing to follow the path of joy, we can learn all we can just by pursuing joy. Question from Alface. Can you talk about regret? Is it possible to pick the wrong paths? How do you know you are aligned with your life purpose and found your gifts? Yes, I think that's a great question. Let me talk about regret. So let's understand one thing. There are no mistakes. Because eventually, your path and my path and everybody else's path is spiritual evolution. Some may take longer and some may take shorter, but that's where every single one of us is headed. So let's not worry too much about how long it takes. Because the point is, however long it takes, all the experience that you have gathered, they are a contribution to the source energy. So that being said, it doesn't matter what path you have traveled. There is a gift in that path that you have got. All you have to do is to appreciate that gift and then share that with the world. So the second part of this is, it's best to not be stuck in the past, because past doesn't really exist. It's just a memory in our mind. It has no reality beyond that. So it's always good to focus on the present and see how you can channel your energies to make the most of the present. Question from Sally. How can I get out of this long-term suffering to align with my true self? I would like to know what your suffering is about before I can answer the question. But as I said, most of the suffering is internally created. What that means is, actually there is a video on the website. It's called Beyond Suffering. I would encourage you to watch that video. Everybody who had questions about suffering, please watch the video on the website. It's also available on YouTube. It's called Beyond Suffering. And that talks about the origins of suffering. Once we understand the origins of suffering, we also understand how to go past it. Okay, any more questions? And once again, I want to paste this link for people who want to volunteer. We have 5 more minutes, 5 to 10 more minutes. Anybody who has questions, I'll be happy to answer. Any last questions? Question from Rui. Feeling frustrated about not finding the right match and also afraid of missing out on having children. How do I deal with that? I would like to encourage you to really think about whether these are your real needs that are arising from your true heart, or are they just a product of social conditioning, first of all? Because in an incarnation, most of your true needs that you really need to learn from the incarnation are typically taken care of. Now, that being said, if your true desire is to have children, you can always find the right person. It's maybe you need to change the strategy. Maybe you need to be part of a different group, and also work with. You need to have a higher frequency that you emit out to the creation. I would say if you invest in your own spiritual growth, that would become much easier. The second thing is, as I said before, there are no mistakes. Ultimately, no matter what life path you take, your journey contributes to the creation. So, don't worry about it. Where do we find the video on suffering? 1 second, let me just post it here. It's part of YouTube. Actually, it's also on the website. So 1 second, let me post it from the website. So if you go here, if you go to free course, this video, let me paste it here. Yeah, and as Kimberly also said, if you really want to have children, you can adopt them. Question from Hot Pretty D. How can we live joyfully and be our true selves when the people around me appear to be miserable and not in tune with spirituality? That's a great question. That's a common question. And also, it is a question that arises because we do not understand our own responsibility in relation to the world around us. See, what the whole world does has really nothing to do with what you do. So, if people are not in tune, that has nothing to do with you. You can still be in tune. Now, if you feel their misery and pain because of compassion, there is something you can do about it, which is you can live an inspired life, and hopefully your example will inspire others. But feeling disempowered because of how others behave and feel is not the right way to go about it, because that will drag you down, and it will drain your energy. Question from Sally. Suffering not true to self, in a rut, depressed, lonely, don't want to live, but not suicidal. I would encourage you to read a book that's also on the recommended list. It's called Your Soul's Gift. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, so if you go to recommendation, there's a book called Your Soul's Gift that talks about your incarnational journey, and basically the life that you are living, you planned for it before coming here. So in the light of that planning, it's always good to honor the life that you have and not feel depressed or lonely and so on. So if you have a higher spiritual perspective, you'll understand that everything that's there in your life is here to serve you. And when you have that understanding, nothing that comes your way can be a problem. Question from Energy Gal. How do you stay out of sympathy when interacting with others and instead be in empathy? I find sympathy creates an unwanted energetic connection. So the answer is you need to have some energetic practice to make sure you are protected against others' energies, especially if you are working with them, right? So the simplest way to do that is to to visualize a sphere of energy every morning before you go out and you start your day. Okay? If you are interested, there are advanced energetic tools that will help you. But at the bare minimum, what you should do is every morning when you meditate, hopefully, you put a sphere of energy around yourself. Just visualize a sphere of white light. And that's the energy of protection that keeps you, that keeps your personal space and prevents others' energy from leaking within yours. Now, that being said, it's also a question about proper understanding. What we see as suffering is sometimes the path that people need to take in their own growth. It's like if you go to the gym and you see this person who is working out and you suffer because that person is going through a challenge, that's totally unnecessary. What they are doing is part of their own growth. And remember, ultimately they are the expression of the source energy. So, feeling sympathy is kind of misguided. I'm not saying you should not feel sympathy, but you should also have the right understanding that they are an expression of the source energy. And their path is a valid path. I hope that answers the question. Okay, thanks everybody for staying with this workshop. I hope to see you next week where we will talk about our community and how you can be part of the community and how we can grow together. Thank you. Question, actually, last thing, question from Deborah. Please post the link to advanced energetic tools. The tool that I recommend, it's called Seraphim Energies, and there is another one that's called the Blue Rain of Concentrated Divine Love from Divine Mother. I think the website is www.divinemother.energies.com and look for a course called Blue Rain of Concentrated Divine Love. Okay, thanks everyone. Hope to see you next week. Take care.